She stood up earlier and said she wanted to earn $1 million. Well, I'm going to show you a few things that will help you earn $1 million. You see, I happen to believe that is not a difficult thing to do. And when you believe it, that's when it starts to happen. Now, as we go through this, I want you to bring all of your conscious attention on yourself. I want you to really think about yourself. Don't watch and figure out how I learned to do what I do or who I am, or I am really the least important part of this whole deal. You are the most important part. You are the most important part of this presentation. So I'm going to ask you to really focus on yourself. So much more than you appear to be or even think you are. Now, when you grasp this part, you really start to move. You already have within all that's required to be, to do, to have whatever you desire. Now think of that. You've already got it. The only thing that Anik can do, and what he does, and he does it so well, he helps you bring it to the surface. Our educational system is broke. Madame Montessori had the right idea. She said, children are not like cups that we try to fill up with knowledge. She said, they've already got it all. What we want to do is bring it to the surface. You are God's highest form of creation. Everything that ever was or ever will be is within us. Now, that may sound like an exaggerated statement, but it's the truth. We've got everything we need inside. What we have to do is learn to draw it to the surface. Now, if you're going to do it on your own, it's probably going to take you a long time. Yet you may never succeed at it. If you ask for help, if you lock into the right people, you can go like a rocket. Now, I can speak with experience here because that's what I did. Now, focus on this. You can create your own economy. You do not have to pay any attention to what the government's telling you about the economy. I never really care what they do about taxes. I'll just earn more. I can earn it faster than they can take it. You see? Listen. If you buy into the idea that we are God's highest form of creation, if you buy into the idea that there's nothing on the planet that will equal us, creating our own economy would be a relatively simple thing to do. Do you know what our problem is? We don't really believe in ourselves. We look at Anik and we think, oh, he can do this. Or you look at me, oh, he can do this. We haven't got one thing going for us that you haven't got going for you. We just found out how to bring it to the surface. Now, I found out through 7 different mentors. They were absolutely incredible human beings. They knew how to produce, and I followed them. I would have walked to China to get what I got. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the development of my own marvelous mind. But I'm going to tell you, it's helped me earn millions of dollars. Earning money is the simplest thing in the world to do. Earning money is an absolute science. See, Wallace Waddell, when he wrote The Science of Getting Rich, that's, by the way, the book that Rhonda Byrne based The Secret on. Waddell said, you don't get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. You'll find 2 people doing exactly the same thing right here in this room. One's earning millions and the other's struggling. They're doing the same thing. You don't get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. How many people here believe that Anik knows how to do what he's talking about? See, you all believe that. That's why you're here. You didn't come here because you were looking for something to do. You came here because you want to learn how to do what you're doing better than you're doing it. All right? Well, let's think about it. You've all got one of these brochures, okay? This is a true opportunity to learn how to earn millions of dollars. Now look, I do not have to be here. I don't have to be anywhere. I go where I want to go. Okay? And I do what I want to do. Okay? Anik apparently has known me a lot longer than I've known him. But Brian phoned me one day and he was telling me about him and he said he'd really like to fly up and meet you. So I said, well, tell him to come on up. So he flew up to Toronto and we sat down in my office. And I got to like this guy real fast because I can read you like a book. I read your energy very, very fast. I mean, I could tell any one of you what you're like. What goes on in the inside shows in the outside. Now, if that being true, you can learn how to read that. And I've gotten very good at it. Now, if I can get very good at it, you can get very good at it. But the point is, I knew this guy was the real deal. He was a very smart guy. He had been through all kinds of nonsense to get to where he was, but he had something really valuable. And I made up my mind I wanted to try and help him. And you know, the strange part about it is all he wanted to do was help me. Now, you've got a couple of opportunities in this brochure. How many have read the brochure? How many have read it very thoroughly? Not many. Well, I have. And I'm going to tell you, that is the only part of it I'm interested in. I do not believe in going halfway doing anything. You either go all the way or you don't go in. Get into the deep end or stay out of the pool. That's my own personal philosophy. And I was taught that by a pretty wise individual. Now, I am going to add to the offer that's in this brochure. Anik did not ask me to do this. He's not paying me to do it. I am doing this because I want, more than anything, for every person in this room to lock into this second offer. On the 24th, the 14th, 15th, and 16th of June. On the 12th, I'm doing a convention in Phoenix. So I thought I might as well stay there and do something else. And I'm doing a program. People are coming from as far away as Singapore to this program. They pay $25,000 to come to it for 3 days. Some people say that's a lot of money. I don't think it's very much at all. Not for what they're going to get, from what they're going to learn how to do, because I'm going to show them how to multiply their income. Now, if they pay $25,000 for 3 days, and they've got to come to me, what would one day be worth if I give it to you? So I want you to let that run through your head. I've just decided to do that. I decided actually last night. Maybe it was this morning. I forget. It was a while ago. All right. But at any rate, I decided either at the beginning or at the end of one of the live seminars that he's going to do in the Ritz, I am going to put on a one-day program, and I'm going to take you into greater depth of what I'm going to show you here in the next few days. If you're watching this on streaming, you have the opportunity. There's a button below. You hit it to register at any point. I can assure you, you're going to get a lot in that day. Now, I want you to look at your results. I want you to think about you. I want you to think about the results you're getting. If you're struggling, I want you to face the truth, the fact you're struggling. Don't say, oh no, everything's great. If everything's not great, it's not great. This is where you've got to be really honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, you're never going to make it. I'm going to tell you in a few minutes how a guy got me be honest with myself. What are your results like now? How much are you earning? What's the most you've ever earned? And I'm going to tell you something. Most people are settling for a whole lot less than they could get. Now, if you're settling for less, the problem's in your own mind. It's not in the marketplace. It's not the people that you're dealing with. It's in your own mind. Results are interesting. How do they happen? How do results happen? Do results just happen? I don't think so. I don't think results just happen. So as we go through this, what I want to do, I'm going to ask you to take a closer look at your results and how they happen. I'm going to show you exactly how they happen. And I'm going to give you some suggestions on how you can change it and change it dramatically. Now, I get pretty good results today, but that wasn't always the case. I had a man sit down with me. It'll be 55 years ago this year. And he put an R on a sheet of paper. And he said, Bob, let that R represent results that you're getting in your life. I didn't even know what he was talking. I didn't know what results were. I didn't. I'd just wake up and I'd go through the day trying to make the best out of it. But I really had no idea what was happening. He said, I want you to look at 3 areas: happiness, health, and wealth. And then he asked me, he said, do you think I'm a happy guy? I said, yeah, you seem pretty happy to me. He said, have you ever seen me when I was sick? And I said, no, I don't think I have. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? The guy always had money. I always envied him. He always had a roll on him. Well, he said, you got to be one of the most miserable people I've ever met, and you're always broke. This is exactly the way he told me. I can see it today as if it was today, because it's burned into my mind. Nobody ever really approached me like this before. I was earning $4,000 and I owed $6,000. He said, do you read anything? And I said, no, I can't read. Now, as I mentioned last night, I could read, not well, but I could. And as I also mentioned, I read about as well as most people. The average person reads at a grade 7 level. And that is because we learn to read by the time we're in grade 7, and we never improve upon the skill from that point on. Then he said, I want you to look at this book. Now, this is the actual book that he gave me. This is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I have never stopped reading it from that day to this day. I read it every day. Now, I want you to think what's in this book, because this is how he put it to me. He said, listen, this guy was mentored by the wealthiest man in the world. He was the first billionaire in the world. He was introduced to 500 of the world's most successful people. And he spent his whole life studying how they accomplished what they accomplished. Now, he said, if he spent his whole life putting this together, he said, I really believe it would be a very prudent move on your part if you spent the rest of your life attempting to understand and apply what's in the book. Now, I got to admit, I wasn't a very bright guy. I was totally screwed up. I was a mixed up young guy. But I understood that. And something about it appealed to me. And I suppose I made a decision that that's what I'd do. And that's what I've done. Every day, I read a little bit of advice that comes from 500 of the world's most successful people at that time. Now, they all have certain things in common. When we understand that, we'll understand that failures all have certain things in common. There's only 3% of the population win. 97% are struggling. Why? The 97% actually think they're different than the 3%. And the truth is they're not any different at all. We are all the same. Now, Kay and I look about as different as they come. Okay? If you ask people, they'll tell you Kay's black, and they'll tell you Bob's white. I'm going to tell you something. Kay is not black, and Bob's not white. My shoes are black. She's not the color of my shoes. My shirt is white. I'm not the color of my shirt. Why would we say she's black and I'm white? Because that's what we see. What's that mean? That means we see something that isn't even there. Why do we see something that isn't there? Because we don't see with our eyes, we see through our eyes, we see with cells of recognition in our brain. And we have been programmed with false information. And most people go right through their life and they never, ever correct that false information and replace it with the truth. Never. And that's why they struggle all through their life. And that's why they think people are different than them. There isn't one person in this room that is any different from another person. Now, there's some people that have a hell of a lot better life than others. There's some that really make it happen with ease and have a lot of fun and they joy and happiness in their life. And there's some that really struggle. But you know something? It's of our own making. We're all the same. We are essentially the same. And all science and all theology teach us that. We're programmed with the wrong information. We're programmed to see something that's not there. Now, if we see Kay as black and Bob as white, and that is not true. In fact, I always say if you ever saw a white person, you'd probably run. My God, they're white! Mm-hmm. Now think. How many other things do we see that aren't there? How about all those walls that are stopping us from living the way we want? How about those ideas that we could never learn what Anik is talking about? We'd never master what he's got. Do you know something? You could get better at it than he is. I was sitting in the green room there, and Sonia Riccati came in and sat down. We were talking, and I was running through all these slides, and she said, "Did you make all these?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Make them all." I said, "Yeah." But you know, it wasn't too long ago, Jane Wilhite from Sci Seminars gave me my first computer. And Rob, who works on the ranch there, he was going to teach me how to use it. And I know that if you went and asked Rob, he probably thought Proctor's never going to learn to, I didn't even know how to turn it on. But I got some instruction, and I learned how to do it. So all the slides you see, I make my slides. But I'm going to tell you something. Somebody had to teach me how to do it. I wasn't born with that. A year later, I was earning $175,000 a year. It wasn't too long until I took it well past that. And I was earning over $1 million a year. Now, this is a guy that had not gone to school, had a bad work record and a bad attitude when he started. Now, I'm telling you, if I can do what I've done, I know that anyone here can do what you dream about. But you will not do it if you're trying to struggle and figure it out on your own. You will not get it done. You will not get it done if you're listening to people that have never made it happen themselves. You've got to go to the people that have made it happen. I have traveled all over the world to study with those people. Anybody here know Nick Halleck? Nick Halleck's in town. I got a text from him. He said, "Give me a call." He said, "I'm going to be here all week." Nick Halleck started to study my stuff as a boy when he was sick in bed. I talked to Leo in here. He was in a seminar I did in Chicago in 1977. Most of you think, "God, you're still alive?" you know. Well, Nick Halleck was a young guy, and he was sick. He was confined to bed. And his parents or somebody gave him all my material, and he started to study it. And he started to write down goals, all the things he wanted to do. And he has done so many things, it's wild. Nick Halleck has become an astronaut in Russia. He has paid millions of dollars to have his remains delivered to the moon after he dies. He wants to be married on the moon. He's already paid to have it done. He has slept in a pyramid, something hardly anybody's done. You can't get in the pyramids. You can't get near them. He has been down in a new cave that's just been found in Mexico, where there's huge big crystals. It goes up to 140 degrees. Nick Halleck is a multi-millionaire. And if you met him, he's just an ordinary guy. But Nick Halleck is a guy that I've mentored. He wrote a book called The Thrillionaire. And he honored me with writing the foreword. Now, why did I mention that? I mention it because he has taken what I was studying and he's used it and used it wisely. If you will really pay attention here, your whole world will change. Now, as I said, it's 55 years this year since I got into this. Now, that's quite a while. I began reading Think and Grow Rich in 1961. It was the cause of a total transformation in all areas of my life. And if you talk to any of my relatives, most of them are still shaking their head. They can't believe that I've changed to the degree that I've changed. I teach mental health to psychiatrists. In fact, one of the top psychiatrists in Toronto, the chair of psychiatry in Toronto, said that she has never known anyone that knew as much about the mind as I did. Dr. John Mike in Florida said I taught him more about the mind in 1 year than he'd learned in 4 years of medical school and 5 years of psychiatric training. Now, I'm not saying that to impress you, but to impress upon you that this information that I have studied and learned over the past 50-some years, it's so valuable. If you're wise, you'll do exactly what I'm suggesting. And I'm not going to suggest anything that is not going to improve the quality of your life. You see, when I committed to study this material every day, and I committed to a long time ago, and follow proven direction, you see, that is the key. My income began to change. How do you follow proven direction? Because you see, you've got your own program that you're dealing with, and you've got to change it, and that's not easy to do. You have to develop discipline. You've got to become disciplined. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. Now, if you will do that, you're going to find that everything in your life will start to shift, and it'll shift dramatically. Now, I want you to think of this. I said, I want you to think of you. You are a spiritual being. No one will ever see the real you. You live in a physical body. You'll often hear people say they have a spiritual experience. You're not having a spiritual experience. You're having a physical experience. You are a spiritual being. You have been gifted with something that no other form of life has been gifted with. You've been gifted with an intellect. All the other little creatures on the planet are totally disoriented in their environment. You and I are the only creature that all the other little creatures are totally at home in their environment. You and I are the only creature that's totally disoriented in our environment. They blend in. They operate by instinct, which is perfect. We have been given higher faculties. We have been given the ability to create our own environment. Now, I want you to think of your environment. I want you to think of your results. Are they what you want? Are you really proud of them? Or do you want to say, I want to change it? How many want to change their results? Be honest. Well, you see, you can, but you've got to be honest and say, I do not want to do this anymore. I want to change my life. And you got to get serious with yourself. You got to play hardball with yourself. You cannot screw around with this. This is your life you're dealing with. And so far as we know, we only get one bite at the apple. Now, it's how you use your intellect that's going to dictate your emotional state or the vibration you're in. And it's the vibration you're in that's going to dictate what you attract. The secret left a lot of people a bit on the wrong track. The law of attraction is a secondary law. It's not a primary law. The primary law is the law of vibration. The law of vibration decrees that we live in an ocean of motion. Not everything moves. Nothing rests. A body in a coffin is moving. Say it's dead. There's nothing dead. If nothing's created or destroyed, that only postulates the theory of life. Go pick up the remains and look at it through a microscope. You'll see it moving right before your eyes. And if it wasn't moving, how would it ever change to dust? The soul moved into the body. The soul will move out of the body. Life and death are parts of the same great adventure. If you don't like what you're attracting, you're going to have to use your higher faculties different than you're using them. Now, we'll go into that in some depth at the program the number 2 people are involved in. Now, think of this. It's how you use those higher faculties that dictates how you feel. It dictates how everything works in your life. Spirit is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. Now, if you will grasp that idea, and you know you're a spiritual being, there's a part of you that's omnipresent. That's a big concept. Spirit operates by law. The law is God's modus operandi. It's how everything happens. But these lines represent levels of vibration. The highest vibration is the spiritual side of you. It's the spiritual side. The lowest vibration is the physical side. But sitting right in the middle is the part that makes us creative. Einstein said something beautiful about that I'll deal with in a few minutes. Now here's what we got to try and understand. We are triune beings. We live simultaneously in 3 planes of understanding. But understand this, they're all hooked together. Each frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. There's no line of demarcation. We are one. I don't care what color you are, what your gender is, how old you are, where you come from. We are one. Everything is connected. Now that may not mean too much to you, but as you start studying this, it's going to mean a whole lot to you. Then you're going to realize that everything you want, you're connected to. What you have to do is get in harmony with it. If you want to attract it to you, you've got to be on the same frequency it's on. You're not going to attract FM music on an AM frequency. You are a spiritual being, you have an intellect, and you live in a physical body. Now, if you ask the average individual, you might ask yourself, what are your intellectual factors? I guarantee you, if you ask the next 100 people, you might only find 3 or 4 that know what they are. Then ask if they could talk intelligently about them. Most of them are not able to tell you. They're just not able to. Why? Because they don't know what they are. Why don't they know what they are? Because nobody's ever taught us. You see, when you get moving your higher faculties, if we could throw that back up on the screen, please. When you get moving these higher faculties, you tap into an infinite source of supply. Thought. Where's thought? Thought's omnipresent. Where's spirit? Spirit's omnipresent. You can think underwater. You can think in bed. You can think walking down the street. You can think wherever you are because thought is omnipresent. And I'm going to tell you something. Thought waves are cosmic waves. Thought waves are cosmic waves. They are more potent than the laser. Your thoughts are omnipresent. The only thing that can stop a thought is that which resonates with that thought. When you send an email, the only thing that can stop that email is something that resonates with that email. The station is being sent to. Well, do you know that you can transfer your thoughts to other people, and it's being done all the time? Now, I'm not going to really get into that now because that's not the purpose of this. But understand this. When you build an idea, if you hold the idea in your mind, that idea must, by law, move into form. Andrew Carnegie pointed that out. He said, any idea that is held in the mind, that's emphasized, that you focus on, really focus on. Hillary focused on getting to the top of the mountain. Nobody in all the history of the world ever got to the top of Mount Everest. They believed they couldn't do it. People died trying. There's people encased in ice up there. They're never coming down. He was an ordinary beekeeper from Auckland, New Zealand, but he said, I can see myself there, so I'm going there. And in 1951 he did, but he failed miserably, and he had to go back home. He didn't get to the top of the mountain. And everybody said, well, you're crazy going there. You're lucky you didn't die. Well, he said, I'm going back. They got angry with him. That's what people do. If they can't see themselves doing what you can see yourself doing, they'll get angry with you if you do it. So in 52, he went back, but he failed again. But in 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay stood right on top of the world. And there's been over 1,000 people do it since then. Carnegie said, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. The idea must move into form. But remember, he said that's either feared or revered. That works for the bad as the good. You worry about something, it's like the great sufferer in the Bible. Job says, lo, the thing I fear has come to visit upon me. I guess so. It moves into form. That is an absolute law. If we could keep the screen going, please. The screen's more important than me. Thank you. All right. You want to change your results? That's how you do them. You hold the idea will move into form. And it'll turn into results. You see, it's all about the mind. It's all about your marvelous mind. Now, when we get talking about the mind, most people don't understand the mind. They really don't. And they believe this is something you should leave to the psychologists, psychiatrists, behavioral scientists, the professionals. Well, I don't believe that. I believe you can teach a little child how the mind functions. If you can teach a little child multiple languages before they go to school, you can certainly teach them this. If I learned this, a little child could learn it because I was just much like a little child. So let's take a look at the mind and at paradigms. In fact, let's look at your mind and your paradigms. Now, no one's ever seen the mind. There was a doctor in San Antonio, Texas, in 1934, Dr. Truman Fleet, was very involved in the healing arts. He stated, the mind is an activity. It's not a thing. No one has ever seen the mind. In order to gain clarity and eliminate confusion, he said, I'm going to create an image that will work for you. You see, if there's no image in your mind, there's no order in your mind. Troward said, order is heaven's first law. You've got to get things in order. You've got to get it in order in your business. You've got to get it in order in your mind. You've got to see how these three parts of you operate. So he said, I'm going to make a picture of the mind. He said, let that represent the mind. And he said, we'll divide the mind into two parts. And he'll say, that's the conscious mind, that's the subconscious, and that's the body. Now, I was searching, trying to figure out why I changed. It was in around 1968. I had gone to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. And they knew that I was searching. I was a bit of an oddball. I knew more than anybody in the company about all this stuff with the exception of Earl. And I wasn't satisfied. I had to know, why did things happen? And one of the guys said, there's a guy in Vancouver that's doing a seminar. You should go out and hear him. So I jumped on a plane and I went out. And as soon as this man started to talk, I knew he knew what he was talking about. He spoke with such absolute conviction, and he was such a winner. When the seminar was over, I went over and I said, I'd like to spend a couple hours with you. And he looked at his watch, and it was about a crowd like this, and he said, I'd probably like to spend a couple hours with you, but I got to catch a plane. I said, well, I got to catch a plane too. I didn't mean right now. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going home. He said, where are you from? And I said, Chicago. He said, what are you doing out here? I said, I come out to hear you speak. I said, if I had known what I was going to get from you, I would have walked all the way out here. Well, you see, I guess that impressed him. And he said, listen, I'm not going to be in Chicago anytime in the near future, but I'm going to be in Toronto. I said, I'm from Toronto. I said, I'll fly over. It's only an hour. And the two of us sat down for what was going to be a 2 or 3 hour meeting. We were there for 3 days. And that is where this idea was first shared with me. This is, without question, the most valuable idea I have ever learned. It's given me an image of my mind. I understand now. I was reading Joseph Murphy, The Power of the Subconscious, but I didn't really get it. Now let's look at this for a moment. There's the mind, the conscious, the subconscious. The conscious mind is your thinking mind. That is the part that we refer to as the educated mind. That's the part school really focuses on. This is the part where the intellect is resident. This is where our higher faculties are. Now the subconscious is quite different. This is our emotional mind. The emotional mind operates totally different than the educated mind. See, the conscious mind has the ability to choose. Dr. J. Martin Coe, I don't think he's a doctor, J. Martin Coe wrote a little book, Your Greatest Power. And he said your greatest power is your ability to choose. You got a brochure here. You can choose to get everything you need to do everything you want to do, or you can choose to just let it go and go home and struggle. That's our greatest power, the ability to choose. Yet since we can choose, we can accept or reject information. When we're watching all that negative stuff on the news, we don't have to accept that. Say, I'm not accepting that. You have the choice. That's so huge. And if you reject it, you have the ability to originate. I originated an idea sitting in my den on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois in 1973 that I would build a company that operated all over the world. We operate in over 100 countries. That was no accident. It happened by law. It happened by design. And everything you're dreaming of, you can have. I had no idea how I was going to do that. I was alone. But I knew people knew how to do much better than I was doing. And I knew if I went and I studied with them and I did exactly what they told me, I could win. Because you see, I had been doing that up until then, and I had earned over $1 million a year. I didn't know how I was doing it, but I found out. I was taking direction. Now, your emotional mind must accept. It has no ability to reject, absolutely none. It cannot reject information, and this is the wild part. This is the part that I love. The subjective mind cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. This is how the Wright brothers got the plane off the ground. This is how we're able to stream right into your home from here in Las Vegas. I had to think of where I was. Okay? It's because somebody had an imagination. That's the greatest tool we've got. And they got emotionally involved with the idea, and voila, it happens. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference. Don't worry about using your imagination. You were stopped at an early age. It was called daydreaming, not paying attention. Get back into it. Fantasy is where all creation begins. Now, I've given you information about the mind. Now let's take a look at ourselves. Here we are today. And here's how it works. There's all kinds of information coming at us. We have a reasoning factor. That's one of our higher faculties. That gives us the ability to think. And so we could think and we say, I'm not going to accept that. And we just kick it out of our mind. But you know something? That's what we could do, but that's not what we do. Do you know what we do? We leave our mind wide open. Wide open. And it goes right into our subconscious. What does? Whatever's going on around us. And we're surrounded by people that don't know how to make it happen. We're surrounded by people that are complaining. We're surrounded by people talking about how tough it is to be business. We're surrounded by people that have never known how to make it happen. And that's going right into our subconscious mind. Why would we do that? We've been programmed to do it. That's our paradigm. How did that happen? Well, you have to go back to when you were a baby. In fact, you have to go back before that. You see, as you were an infant, this is how you arrived on the scene. You didn't have any conscious faculties. Your subconscious mind was wide open. And whatever was going on around you went right into your subjective mind. I was born during a Great Depression. When I was only 5 years old, my father went off to Europe to fight in a war. So did all the other kids' fathers. There wasn't any fathers around. You hear women can't do this, women can't do that. What the hell? There was the only thing around then was women. Women were the cops. Women collected garbage. They drove the streetcars. They did everything. They run the munition plants. They made the planes. They made the tanks, the bullets, everything that the guys were using in Europe and in the Pacific. The war was over, and wow. Well, women can't do that. Why the hell would we accept all this nonsense? We're programmed to. We're programmed to accept it. You see, the information around us just keeps dumping into our subconscious mind. That's how your self-image was formed. You have an image of you. And if you're sitting there thinking, my God, I wished I could learn to do what Annika's doing. I wished I could do what Bob's doing. I wished I could do what was his name? Zane. You know, I wished I could do what he was doing. Well, I wished I could do. Do you know what that is? That's an inferior image of yourself. Get rid of it. Start to understand you're God's highest form of creation. Understand how your mind works. Well, self-image is one idea. A multitude of them is the paradigm. Now look at. We're living much like we were programmed as little kids. You say, oh, not same. Yeah, almost identical. And then we go to school. Now let's see what school does. The white is, there's the little sensory factors. You can see here, smell, taste, touch. You go to school and you hear what the teacher's saying. You hear with your ears. Because you hear what the teacher's saying, you gather the information. Gather the information. The books start to pile up in your consciousness. See? And then at a certain point, the teacher comes along and says, we're going to find out if you learned anything, and they give you a test. If you answer the test, you win. If you don't answer the test, you lose. And they think that's learning. That isn't learning. It's not learning at all. That's not knowing. That's the observation of a fact. It's not the internalization of it. Now you hear with your ears, but you listen with your emotions. When you go to that class, that number 2 class, listen to everything they're saying. Get the recordings. Listen to it over and over and over again. And odds are good you will learn it. Now learning is when you consciously entertain the idea, you get emotionally involved in the idea, you step out and you act on the idea, and you change the result. I think the thing I liked about Anik that day when he was in my home, when I started to ask him what he was doing, and I found out what he was doing, this is what he was doing. He was helping people learn how to become wealthy, how to use the internet to their advantage. You see, learning is the feedback that comes to your conscious mind from the change in result. Now let's take a look at the model of what happens to them when they're graduating from school, because there's thousands of people graduating from school right now. Let's look at it. Here's the model again. School gave us valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us how to alter the old program. And the paradigm is controlling our behavior. Therefore, we frequently do not do what we already know how to do. Superior knowledge, inferior results, causes confusion and frustration. Here it is. There's the model. They got the books, baby. They remembered what's in them because they passed their exams. But you know something? The results would indicate they never went to school. Some of the most brilliant people you know are getting poor results. Do you want to get good results? Enroll in number 2. Do exactly what Annika's telling you. You see, it's the paradigm that controls the results. Do you know what his programs do? They show people how to alter the paradigm. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe what I'm telling you. I wouldn't be here if I thought he couldn't do what he's telling you. Now, if you want to change your results, get this straight. If you want to change your result, there's only one way to do it. You've got to change your paradigm. You've got to build a new paradigm. And if you don't change the new paradigm, you're just going to walk around with more knowledge, but you're still not going to earn the money. You're not going to get the results. But if you will follow what we're telling you, I guarantee it'll happen just like night and day. Now, I'm going to take longer than you said, Anna, but I'm going to do it anyway, so what the hell. Now look at, keep your eye on the ball. I want to talk to you about the invisible side of success. The mind is the invisible side of success. That little circle will represent the mind. Now let's put a body on it and bring it down here and talk about what happens. There you have the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Okay? And the body moves into action. You see, the body is the instrument of the mind. You look at yourself, the body's the instrument of the mind. If you observe people, if you become very observant, you can pretty well tell what's going on in their mind. It's not difficult to tell. You can read just like a book. Okay? Now look at. They moved into action and get results. But there's a problem here, because that's not the results they want. This is the results they want. They've got this dream. You see, this here is the invisible side. This is the visible side. Now, there's a gap here between the two. And unfortunately, 95% of the population spend their entire life wandering here between these 2 points. In a state of frustration, in a state of confusion, and they never really earn what they're capable of. I deal with this every day with people, and I work all over the world. There's hardly a country that I have not worked in. And people are essentially the same everywhere. They're exactly the same in Shanghai as they are right here in Vegas. They just speak different languages, and eat different food, and wear different clothes, and look different. They're exactly the same. The paradigm's controlling them. And they're trying to break out. They have this dream, and they're trying to figure out how to do it, how to do it. If I go to another seminar, well, if you go to the right one, and you go in with the right attitude and the right mindset, you can change it. You see, the visible is the manifestation of the work done in your mind. You must understand the mind. You must. Mind is the invisible side of you. Body is the instrument of the mind. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you have been struggling financially most of your life, you understand what I'm telling you, and there's a side of you knows that if you do what I tell you, you can change all that. Okay, you can have the million. It's already here. You just have to feel worthy of it. And the more you understand your mind, and the more you understand what we're talking about here on the internet, you'll have the million. You can have many millions. I was laughing with Brian, and I said, you know, Sonia Riccati must have a bucket of dough stashed away somewhere, because she has got really good at what she does. But understand this. It wasn't that long ago when Sonia Riccati had nada. Nothing. She will be the first to tell you, if she can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If any can do it, you can do it. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is our attention is focused on the outside, on the present results. We've got to stop focusing on the present results. Now, everyone wants freedom. Everyone wants freedom. We want time and money freedom. Now, I'm going to tell you, you will be absolutely amazed at how much free time you have when you never have to think about money. I learned that a long time ago, and I believed it before it happened. But for a long time, I have never had to be concerned about money. I earn far more than I need. I live a reasonable, simple life. I've lived in the same house for 32 years. I work most of the time because it's what I love doing most. I have an assistant who's been with me 28 years and another one in the accounting that has been with us 15 years. I had a text a few hours back. We've just arrived. Thanks so much. They're in Kenya. They have gone over to see the good work we do, our company does. We build schools in Africa. We build a school every 2.5 weeks, and our goal is to build one every day. And they're there to see the work and work with the people. Dig in. You see? There is only one problem in the whole world, and that's ignorance. That's the only problem. You eliminate ignorance, all the other problems are gone. Now think. I want you to look at the areas of your life, your paradigm. That's the programming that your paradigm has enormous influence over. Your paradigm has enormous influence over your perception. Now, I know that if I went around and I got everybody hooked up to a Keeler polygraph and sucked the truth out of you, as Anik is standing here telling you what you can do, you're looking at him and you're thinking, well, maybe you can, but I don't think I'll ever learn to do that. Well, I'm going to tell you something. All the coaches up here probably thought that way at one time too. And now they're not only doing it, but they're teaching other people how to do it. That's the way this works. Their perception changed. Your perception is your point of view. The use of your time. Do you know that everybody gets exactly the same amount of time? We get all there is. We get all there is. No one gets any more time than anybody else. So it's what we do with it that makes the difference. Your paradigm controls your creativity. Why do we have great big companies and little tiny creative departments? Do you know the whole company is a creative department? There's no one in this room that's more creative than another. There's only some in this room that are utilizing their creative faculties to a greater degree than another. But we're all very creative. Effectiveness. Do you know, you get in this program and you make up your mind when you start it, it'll probably be like learning how to bake a pie or drive a car or use your computer. You'll start, when you first start, you think, I'm never going to learn this. And then pretty soon, look, Ma, no hands. It's a matter of locking in and staying with it and developing the ability to understand what the coach is, what Anika is telling you. If you're going to change your life, you got to change your life. Your productivity. How does that improve? You become more aware. You become I'm much more productive than I used to be. Your logic. You'll hear people say, well, that isn't logical. Well, then that's probably the right thing to do. If your goal is realistic, it probably isn't worth much. Think of all the breakthroughs that have been made. The originators were totally illogical. Think of these cameras that are picking up my image, my likeness, my words, the energy, and they're transmitting it all over the world. This is as much evenly present in Buenos Aires right now as it is here in this room. How did that happen? Someone broke through logic. And understand this. You came here because you want to learn how to do this. You want to learn how to earn more money. Well, your paradigm is controlling your income. Now look, we said, look at the areas of your life your paradigm has an enormous influence over. You're boxed in. We get boxed in. We try and get out, and we can't get out of the box. Understand this. The moment you make a decision, I am changing this. You don't know how, you don't have to know how. But you say, listen, I am changing this. This is it. No more. The second you make that decision, you knock down the walls. That doesn't mean anything's improved. But now you can move. You can get out of the box. Understand, though, if you want to get out of the box, the instructions are on the outside of the box. I want you to just imagine how your entire life will change as you begin improving any or all of these areas of your life. The change will be huge. Now here is the most beautiful part. The change will be permanent. My goodness, that's nice. Imagine how your life would change if that's all you changed. Do you know that you change your perception and your income will change almost overnight? By shifting your perception of your business, you'll turn your annual income into a monthly income. This is probably one of the most beautiful ideas a person can get involved in. Now look what Buckminster Fuller said. You never change things by fighting existing reality. Quit struggling. To change things, you have to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That's exactly what Anik has built. He has built a new model. And what he's saying, if you really want to learn this model, sign up. Make a decision. Get involved in this. Now let these lines represent levels of vibration. Levels of vibration are referred to as frequencies. And understand this, you and I think on frequencies. Now, we will let this represent every one of us. This is the frequency we're thinking on. These little clouds are our thoughts, and the thoughts that we're thinking are producing the results that we're getting. Now we say, this is the result I'm getting, but that's not the result I want. I want to get that result. I've got this dream. And they make a decision. Some of you are looking at this, and you've looked at this brochure, and you said, that number 2 class, that's the one I want. I'm going to do that. As soon as this changes. I'm going to do it as soon as I get the money. I'm going to do it as soon as the kids are out of school. I'm going to do it as soon as he agrees or as soon as she agrees. I'm going to do that someday. You know something? You probably never do it. You want a good exercise? Read the chapter on decision in this book every day for a month. Every day read the chapter on decision. Analysis of several thousand people, 25,000 men and women who had experienced failure, disclosed the fact that lack of decision was near the head of the list of the 30 major causes of failure. This is no mere statement of theory, this is a fact. Analysis of several hundred people who had accumulated fortunes well beyond the $1 million mark, disclosed the fact that lack of decision was near the head of the list of, disclosed the fact that every one of them had the habit of reaching decisions promptly and of changing those decisions slowly if and when they changed them at all. People who failed to accumulate fortunes make decisions, and he said this is without exception, have the habit of reaching decisions slowly and changing the decisions often. Successful people make decisions very fast, and they change them very slow. You know why? They let Spirit guide them. Spirit operates with feeling. You got to say, I'm going to do that. And the second you make that decision, the thoughts start to pop into your consciousness of how to do it. If you're going to wait until you get the money, you're never going to get it. If you're going to wait until the time is right, you're never going to get it. You got to make your decision, and the second you make the decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that the thoughts that will enable you to do that are on. See, the way for you to do anything you want to do is already here. Don't let money or anything else stop you. If you go home and take a look around your home, there's all kinds of stuff there you don't need. You know why you got it? Because you wanted it. When you want this bad enough, you're going to find it. Now look it. Offer one and offer two. Offer one, your investment's $9,997. And you can pay for it in two payments of $5,497. Offer two. The investment's $21,997. And you can pay for that in four payments of $5,797. Now, what are you doing here? You're literally the same as buying a business. You're investing $20,000 in a business that'll enable you to earn millions of dollars. I see one offer here, and that's it. As I was saying to my son, I said, you know something? The price of this is hardly any different. Why would a person go for number one? It's $5,000 so much a month. You just pay for a couple more months. This offer two is a way, it's a well-organized plan with excellent instruction. Just go in with the attitude, I am going to master this. Don't listen to anyone. Look what Cook says. Do just once what others say you cannot do, and you're never going to pay attention to their limitations again. Do you know where I was working when the guy gave me this book? I was on the fire department in Toronto. I was the second person since 1934 to quit. No one quit, and they couldn't fire you. You just had to show up with the blood running. All the guys I was working with about 20 years ago retired, and they're in a little trailer park down in Florida lying to each other about the big fires they were in. Wasted their life. You tell people you're going to do this, and they will laugh at you. Let them laugh. Understand, the second you make this decision, you fall into a very, very small select group of people. 3% of the population, 95%, 97% aren't going to make it happen. It's a simple decision. You don't have to know how you're going to do it until you decide, I'm doing it. Sign it and get going. I am going to help you. Now look here for a moment. This is a book I've been studying for a long time. And this stops most people. This is a chapter on organized planning. He said, before you can be sure of your ability to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent, you're going to require specialized knowledge. And most people think, I'm never going to get it. That's what I thought when I first read that. I was just fortunate I had a mentor. Now, that is on page 108 in my book. But my mentor took me ahead. He says, keep reading, buddy. Now look at this. On page 116, right up here at the top of the page. I'll magnify it for you. Napoleon Hill said it pays to know how to purchase knowledge. When I first learned why I changed, all I wanted to do was teach it. That's all I wanted to do. But I was very quiet and very shy and very withdrawn. That is my genetic nature. I was in a meeting at the O'Hare Hyatt in Chicago. Bill Gove was speaking at that meeting. I was in the back. It would be a room about like this. There was about 1,000 people in it. But I was around at the back of the room. He was standing on the front corner. He had a handheld mic in his hand. This guy was called the Frank Sinatra of public speakers. He was phenomenal. And he had his hand up looking at this bank of the audience. And he said, if I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me I think you think I should be. Not the me I think my wife thinks I should be. Not the me I think my kids think I should be. If I want to be free, I've got to be me. So I better know who me is. And I'm in the back of the room. And all I wanted to do was teach this. I was afraid to ask a question in a crowd. And I was thinking, oh my God, if only I could do what he's doing. Now let's digress for a moment. I had listened to Earl Nightingale's Lead the Field program probably more than anybody alive. I still listen to it. I've got it on my phone. His first recording, the magic word, was attitude. And in that recording he said, now right here we come to a rather strange fact. We tend to minimize the things we can do, the goals we can accomplish. And for some equally strange reason, we think other people can do things that we cannot. He says, I want you to understand that you have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within you. Now, if you'd asked me if I understood that, I'd say, of course I understand. I've listened to it 1,000 times. What do you mean, do I understand? Sure, I understand it. Here I was in the back of the room thinking, Gove can and I can't. And all of a sudden, it was like some euphoric experience. I thought, that record started to play in my head, and I thought, that's what he means by that. If Gove can, Bob can. I started to get excited. I made up my mind I was going to do what he was doing. And I made up my mind I was going to get him to teach me. And he did. He and I became very good friends. Right up until he died. In fact, I used to give him $5,000 and $10,000 just to sit down and talk to him for a short time. He said, if you get it for nothing, you won't appreciate it. Because you got to pay for it. I willingly paid him. The last speech Bill Gove gave, he gave for my company. I hired him. We were down in Florida. And fortunately, it was something like this. We had it recorded, multiple cameras. It was a real professional shoot. That was in October. Bill passed away early in December. If he had lived till January, he would have been 90. And after he passed away, I thought, boy, that film we've got of him is worth a lot of money. And I thought about all I learned from him. And I thought, wow, I could never pay him for what I owe him. You go to this class with Anik, and I guarantee you, a year from now, 10 years, 20 years from now, you'll realize just how ridiculously inexpensive it was. And I took that film and I gave it to Ada, his widow, and Steve Siebold, his business partner. I said, here, I think you guys should have this. I'm not sure what they do with it, but they've got it. The point is, I learned to do what Bill was doing. I've earned millions more money than Bill has, and probably than Earl. The point is, if you see Anik doing it, you can do it. If you see me do it, you can do it. You've got to get that so you don't have to know how. I'm going to give you a great lesson I learned from my mentor. I want you to let this circle represent all the knowledge that Anik Segal has. And you could sit sort of in awe of him. I do when he starts talking about the internet. I mean, I'm really not very tech savvy. And you think, I'd never learn all that. Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. You don't have to learn all that. You just have to learn that little bit. Turn yourself a few million. That's what he's put in that program. Again, when you've got that and you're mastering it and you're earning the money, you're going to go and learn more. I learned something from a president of a company that I worked for, and I sent him a text and thanked him. Something that he taught me. He sent me a text back this morning. He said, "You amaze me. You can still be coached." I got a plaque on my wall by Michelangelo. He said, "I am still learning." See, you don't have to know everything that Anik knows. You just get a bit of it, and you can earn millions. Now, he can show you how to turn your annual income into a monthly income. You see, this can be accomplished by setting up multiple sources of income. Do you know that you can go back in history? I've studied money for a long time. It was fascinated me, and it still does. Money's an idea. You see, this stuff is not money. That's paper with ink on it. It represents money. Money's an idea. That's really what it is. But you can go right back to the ancient Babylonians. Wealthy people have always had multiple sources of income. Now, I want you to think of how the world is changing. This world is changing so dramatically, it's wild. The world's not getting bigger. The world's getting smaller. I was talking to somebody here from Zimbabwe just yesterday. The world is shrinking. We're only hours away from anywhere. You can text people on the other side of the world and they get the message. You can have business all over the world through what Anik's teaching. You can have it all over the world. There's no end to it. I have business all over the world. I don't even know how many places we have business. I have income coming in when I'm sleeping. The truth is you can earn more money when you're sleeping than you can spend when you're awake. All you have to do is get really good at this. Now, you're really good at something. How did you get really good at it? You're probably really good at driving your car. You're probably really good at doing all kinds of things. How did you get really good? You just practiced and kept doing it. Now look here for a moment. There's the world. What did Zane say? He said, I have income coming from all over the place. Multiple sources of income. That's what MSI is. And you can have income coming from all over the place. I was talking to Sonia today, and we were saying, you know, some of the lunches are big and some small. They're not all the same size. But you can have income coming from all over the place. Now, that may sound like an appealing idea. Don't let it just be an appealing idea. Turn it into your reality. Yeah, anybody can do this. I've been teaching people to do it for years. This is like the Wild West on the internet. We're all in rompers relative to where we can go. Now think. All of your sources are not going to be the same size. Some are big and some are small. But get this. Every one of them have something in common. It all flows into your bank, baby. And it just keeps growing. You see, for that little bit there in those two bundles, You can literally learn how to earn millions. Now, there's a part of you that doesn't believe you can earn millions. There's another part of you that believes you can earn millions. We believe on two different levels. On a conscious level, we know, yes, I can do that. On a subconscious level, our paradigm's saying, no, we can't do that. You see, you've got to change the paradigm. You've got to change the thinking on the subconscious level, and that's what the program does. As you get involved through repetition, that all starts to change. You're a mass of energy. You function on frequencies. There's something absolutely incredible about us. We're so much more than we understand ourselves to be. Now look at. A frequency is a level of vibration. Okay? I think we know that. Now, the truth is there's millions of frequencies. Literally millions. There's an infinite number of them. And you know something? Everyone is connected to the one above and the one below. Now really pay close attention here because there's a great lesson in this. They're all hooked together. Here's where Einstein said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. See all at the top there? They're the higher faculties. Perception, memory, imagination, reason, intuition, and the will. You know, I can walk by you and I can give you a pretty good reading on your personality. I am extremely intuitive. Some of you are as well. What is your name? What? Michelle. Is there somebody here that knows Michelle? You met her today? Is there anybody that knows her? Michelle's very sensitive. Michelle's got very sensitive energy. She's very creative. You can hurt her feelings very easy. You can turn her on, turn her off real fast. Okay? How do I know that? I can just feel it. I know her energy. What's your name? Louis? Louis is like that too. But he's also got another side to him. There's another side to him that's real tough. Michelle operates predominantly from the right hemisphere of her brain. Louis operates from both the right and left hemisphere of his brain. That makes him quite different. There's a side of Louis that's very impulsive. Michelle's very impulsive. Okay? There's another side of Louis that's not very impulsive, so when he goes to do something on impulse, the other side says, no, Louis, I don't think you should do it. So Louis, do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it all the time. And when he does it, he gives himself hell for doing it. When he doesn't do it, he gives himself hell for not doing it. Now, you see, if I was going to sell Louis, I would sit down, I'd be super sensitive to his energy. And if I could feel that he was in his right brain, wham, I'd sell real fast on emotion. But if I feel he shifted gears, I would slow right down and I'd go back to facts and figures. How do I know this about them? I don't know them. I know them, but I don't know them. Well, do you know everything that goes on the inside shows on the outside? Now, the lady beside you here, what is your name? Denny. Don't mess around with her. She has a very strong mind. When she makes up her mind to do something, she'll go right through the wall to make it happen. She does not quit things easy. She is going to control things. She's like the sheriff of the universe. Doesn't matter who's the leader, she's going to lead. All right? That's just the way it is. Very, very strong mind. How do I know that? Well, I'm using my intuitive mind. I have worked at developing it for over 50 years. Can you develop it? You certainly can. We've got to start to develop that higher side of our personality. See, that's why Onyx brought me in to work with him. Now look at that X. I want you to let that X represent where you are. Now pay real close attention to this because I think this is going to solve a big problem for a lot of people. How many of you are getting tired of coming to meetings like this and really not getting it going? How many are tired of that? Now wait a minute. How many can hold their arm above their shoulder? How many are getting tired of not getting it up into the millions? Yeah, that's more honest. All right, let that X represent where you are. Take an honest look at where you're at in your life And I'm going to tell you something. You can see how you got there. And that is because all these lines represent levels of vibration or levels of awareness. We can look back with memory and we can see how we've done it. We see all the various things that changed as we become more aware and we kept taking steps forward. So we say, that's where I am, and I know how I got there, but that's where I want to go. And I have no idea how to do that. And that's scary, isn't it? Some of you want to enroll in that program, but you're scared. Because I don't know how I can do that. Well, you can use your imagination and you can see yourself doing it if you want. Just kick your imagination into high gear and see yourself really making it happen. See, as you do that, what you did is flip your head into a higher frequency. But because you may not understand this very well, it's easy to lose that and say, I just don't know how I could do it. Now get this. The moment your belief matches with any state you fuse with it, go back here for a minute. There's a state right there. Well, the moment your belief matches with any state you fuse with it, and this union results in the activation and projection of the plots, the plans, the conditions, and the circumstance. Everything that has to happen starts happening. You're dealing with an intelligent universe. This is not happening by accident. This new state of consciousness, awareness, becomes your home from which you view the world. It's going to be your workshop, and if you are observant, you'll see your outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. You'll just see how your world changed. You see, Anik Segal saw this happening when he didn't have any money. He saw this happening when he had absolutely no idea how it was going to happen. Get this. When you move on to a higher frequency, you will be communicating with a world totally foreign to and beyond the reach of your five senses. Forget looking outside for your answers. They're not there. They're going to come a different way. Now look here for a moment. There's your conscious mind. That's where your intellect is resident, and that's where your wants are. There's your subconscious, and that's where your paradigm is, and there's the instrument that's functioning, the mind is expressing itself through, and that's the body. Now, the law of attraction responds to the paradigm. It doesn't respond to what you want. You've got to turn the want into a desire, or you've got to turn the want and turn it into a paradigm. You've got to get the want planted in the subconscious. You've got to get rid of the old paradigm. You've got to change your inner programming. And when you do that, the whole world starts to change. Stand with the paradigm, it ain't going to happen. Think about this for a moment. Progress of this nature is an expression of higher levels of awareness. You go back to 1903 and then to 1969. From Kitty Hawk and the Wright brothers getting a plane in the air to landing on the moon. In just 979 months. If we were doing that kind of change today, it would happen in a lot less than 979 months. Now, when you're setting your goals as a result of being here, you'll be inclined to set goals to do what you already know how to do. That would be a real error. Because there's no growth involved in that. And if you graduate from that, you move to a higher level, a B-type, you're going to go after what you think you can do. I am going to make a suggestion that you rule both of those out and really stretch. Stretch your marvelous mind and get up where the air's a little thin. Get into that high-octane energy. Get up with that 3% into the C-type goals. Begin creating the kind of life you want. Start doing what you really want to do. You don't know how, but you know you can. Now I want you to think. Really think. What do you really want? If you don't make a decision, a firm, binding decision that you're going to change you, that you're going to step out and you're going to roll the dice on you, probably nothing will change too much. And I know that for the vast majority of everyone here, the results don't change too dramatically, but they can. And that's what this is all about. Now, do you see that X? This represents where you want to go. The bottom represents where you've been. You've seen how to get there. There's a reason why we can't go ahead. Steve Jobs says you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backward. Now you have a choice. You can struggle and try and figure out how to get there. And if you're determined enough and you're persistent enough, you can do it. It may take you 10 years, 15 years, may take the rest of your life. But some people keep at it all their life, and some do make it. Most do not. However, if you do what Napoleon Hill says, it pays to know how to purchase knowledge. There's a way of closing that gap. I found that this works like unadulterated magic. Go to people who have demonstrated by results they know what they're doing. Pay them. Buy that knowledge. Do exactly what they tell you. I have people that pay me up to $100,000 a year to talk to them once a week on the phone. You know something? It's worth it. They're getting great results. That's one-on-one. I talked to Leo. He was with Prudential back in 1976, 77. We've talked yesterday and again today. I went in there, I worked with that old company. We raised the sales by hundreds of millions of dollars, literally hundreds of millions of dollars. It's all recorded in their books. That's not my word, that's theirs. I've known how to do this for many, many years. And I'm going to tell you this. If you look to the person beside you and say, what do you think I should do? You're on the wrong track. No, you really are. That's part of the paradigm. Part of the paradigm, we're forever saying, what do you think I should do? I'm telling you exactly what you should do. And you should do it today. You should say, I am going to have this company. I'm going to get Anik. I'm going to get him to teach me how to close that gap. That gap represents, in Kay's situation, $1 million a year. That's what she said. You could have picked two. That was your first million. In real life. Well, maybe you could lend everybody $1 million then. I got the idea. You're right. All right? Now listen. You make that decision, and this is the way that happens. That just starts to click ahead. Your awareness just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's such a beautiful concept. And that is how all successful people, you go right back to Carnegie that I started to study, Napoleon Hill, and all the people he had in the book. There's hundreds of them. They were all mentored by someone who got better results. That is how I went from bad attitude, no income, no kind of a work record, to earning millions with a great reputation all over the world. It seems like I get all the credit, but I really don't. The credit goes to those people that took the years to study, that shared it with me. You see, all I'm doing is passing along what I learned. That's exactly what Anik's doing. He's turned it into a business. And the more he can do, the more people he can help. My whole concept is every child should have an education. And I'm going to do everything I can as long as I live to make sure that they do. Now, anyone can do whatever they want. You've got to have a big enough idea to inspire you, but then you've got to make the bucks to back it up. And everything that's in that second phase, that phase 2, is what you need. Now, some of you say, well, I haven't got the money. Listen, there isn't a person in this room that can't figure out how to come up with $5,000 or $6,000 every month. You can do it. And if you just do that for 4 months, you're going to have an education that's going to blow you away. And I'm going to come and I'm going to spend all day with you teaching you some very valuable stuff. Now, here's the thing. You could have actually gone that far. You see? What did we say? Decisions. You got to set the target. I will when that happens. That won't work. You got to say, I am going for it. And you will find then that the thoughts start to flow into your mind. The second you make a decision, it's an irrevocable decision, everything starts to happen. When President John Kennedy asked Dr. Wernher von Braun what it would take to build a rocket that would carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth, von Braun asked him in 5 words. He said, the will to do it. And that's all you need to bury yourself, submerge yourself in that phase 2. Now, I am going to suggest that if something inside Satan doing this, do not let anything talk you out of it. I want to suggest you go back to the back and you sign it up. You get in it. You get in that program. And I will be there. I will put on a full day with the course when you're doing the weekend training. And you're going to be happy that we all got together. Don't let the idea die inside. Make a firm decision. And I'm going to tell you, you will look back at this day as being a pivotal day in your life. I can look back to the 21st of October, 1961. That was the day Ray Stanford put this book in my hand. And my life has never been the same. I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do what he suggested. But I knew one thing. I was going to do it. Now, if you buy into that idea, if you want to join us, go on back there and do it. Don't just sit in your seat. Get up and go and do it. Go and do it right now. If you're in there, you will see at the bottom of your screen, you can tap and you can join this. Get into it. I'll turn it back to our songbird. Here she comes. Tweet, tweet, tweet.
Bob Proctor.